Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is a podcast dedicated to helping accounting professionals start, build, and operate successful accounting businesses, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what they're worth. Each and every week we have on experts, individuals to help us offer quality services, get paid what we're worth, but more importantly, have great client relationships and at the same time providing quality services. So with today, I have an excellent guest, someone I've been excited to have on the show. This is Jason Blumer. Jason actually founded Thrival in 2010 as a way to help entrepreneurial CPA firms actually connect, learn, and grow. He serves as the visionary and CEO of Thrival, and his partner, Julie Ship, serves as the integrator and COO of the organization. Since 2010, Thrival has helped many small firms grow to provide community, coaching services, webinars, firm consulting, growth, and many more things such as events that people can attend. Now, he has something that I would like to point out. It's called the Deeper Weekend. It's an annual event done live by Thrival. It's now in its 10th year. And Jason, as the CEO, also actually operates Blummer. There's a reason why we said that. Blummer and Associates CPAs. The firm is one of the first to move from the traditional office to a virtual environment back in 2012, where they served as an advisory firm for the design, marketing, and creative agency service niche. Now, as this, he's actually got a partner that focuses on business consulting and coaching with the owner. They actually partner with firms and agencies while their team meets with the technical and financial compliance needs of their customers. So Jason is the co-host also of a podcast. Thrivecast is what it is. And at the same time, another one called the Businessology Show. So he speaks and writes frequently in the financial world and creates a number of things to help accounting professionals succeed. In fact, he's actually been listed as one of the top 10 most influential people in the accounting world by Accounting Today. So Jason, welcome to the show.
Cool. Roger, thanks for having me, man.
You're so welcome.
I gave you a long bio.
Well, let's just say there's a lot to represent. You've done a lot in the last 30 years.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah. And I think I gave you maybe some old bio. So our Deeper Weekend conference is in its 13th year in 2024. So I think I put 10 in there. It's hard to keep track of how long we've had that conference now. So
it started, I'm assuming, in 2010?
Yeah, I think, or 2011. I'm not good at math, so I'm not sure if that maybe when we did that. It may have been 2010. So, yeah, it started. It's just grown into a conference, really a global conference people come to. But started as a 30-person group where we said, "Hey, y'all want to get together and hang out?" And we did. And it just keeps growing. That's how things work in the entrepreneurial world. They just build on each other. So
they certainly do. There's a community that happens. And as you get those connections, you want to reconnect, engage with one another. And clearly, whether it's a conference, an event, whatever we want to call it, those can be very, very beneficial to us both personally and professionally. So I agree with that. So I want to go back, give a little bit of context here. Let's go and give our listeners a little bit of an understanding of your journey in becoming an accountant, a CPA. What drew you to this profession? Let's at least get that backstory on the table here. So tell us about how you got drawn to the accounting profession.
Yeah, I made a post about this on LinkedIn not long ago, and it started with me being in a rock band in college.
Who knew?
And who knew? Right. And so, so that's kind of where it started. Actually, 2 years into college playing in the band, I needed to pick a major, and I didn't have one. And my dad was an accountant. I'm like, I guess I'll just do that. So the post was about defaulting into accounting. It's kind of what I did. And it was so funny. A lot of accountants put posts and pictures of them in bands too. So then we had a post of a bunch of people, a bunch of accountants that also were in bands in college, in high school. What a trip.
I love it. No, I do have to ask, are you like the lead person, the singer? Are you the guitarist, drummer? What are you playing? What are you doing?
No, I was the bass player.
Bass. All right.
So that's the guy that can't play guitar or drums or sing, and then they let him play bass.
You're the thumper.
Right. I'm the thumper. So I had a lot of fun though. So so really my journey was just a default. It's like, oh no, I got to pick something. And I picked it, and I did. I picked the best profession. So that's
there you
good.
go. Now, as you pick that, I'm sensing a little bit of reluctancy here, but you get into it. There's one thing to graduate with the accounting degree. It's another thing to actually do something with it. I mean, there's numerous people that get degrees and don't really find employment doing what they graduated in. But that's not the case. You've obviously continued on. Tell us about your journey to becoming a CPA then.
Yeah. So I started in the private accounting. So went and did controllership for small companies and things like that. And just really, I'm the kind of guy who gets really bored and distracted. So I'm just producing these financial statements over and over for the same company. And it just really got boring. I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. So I was just looking for another job. And in 1998, I went into public accounting. And man, that's really when my eyes were open to kind of the clients. And it's like they just would come to us for any issue, for any problem. I started selling new services, and it was like really exciting to just go, wait, we're open for business, right? These clients can ask us anything, and we have to figure out how to solve it. And that was pretty intriguing to me, and even learned about some new services, started selling some of those. This is when I was at another larger firm.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to run my own deal. So went into business with my dad back in 2003 because he had already started a small bookkeeping accounting business. He bought one. He
Uh-huh.
bought a really small one. And I just wanted to partner with him back in 2003 and did that. And here we are. Keep trucking.
So let me dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
I've got a number of people that have similar stories, and so I'd like to probe. Um, you're in a stable job. You've got this business that you're involved in doing public accounting.
Mhm.
What was the allure of Dad saying, "Hey, come join me. We've got this business. You can help me run this business." Did you have an entrepreneurial drive? Was it helping Dad out? I mean, what
Yeah.
was the pull?
Yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's just it's gotten me in a lot of trouble and allowed me to do a lot of fun and exciting things too. So I was probably, just from high school, even junior high, I was always probably destined to run my own business, probably. So no, it was me coming to my dad going, "Hey, I'm leaving this place, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I'm like, "I can do this better than these people," and I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship there. I just knew I had to go run my own business. And so my dad had one, we were both CPAs. So I went and jumped in with him because I wanted to build something and try it and grow it. And that was kind of what drove me to do it.
So as you came into now running your business, clearly different than going to the day job and doing the accounting.
Hmm.
There's a lot
Yeah,
many other components to marketing the business, selling the services, providing the
totally.
services, client relations, dealing with things that typically when you have a job, you may not be experiencing. What was different then about that you remember as to, wow, I didn't expect this. I didn't realize that this would include, in addition to
Yeah.
doing accounting services, these other things.
Yeah. So my dad's firm was really small. It was small enough where I really dove into a lot of the technical things. We were both just doing accounting, taxes, and payroll. There was nobody else working with us at that time. And so it was so small. I was still doing some of the similar services. But over time, it did grow because I started making up new services, new consulting services. I started selling new things. And so at a point, it did get to a point years later, it got to a point where it did overwhelm me because the business was now a bigger business. And there were still these technical services to provide, which me and my dad were still providing a lot of those. So probably initially it didn't overwhelm me, but there came to be a point where it really started to crush me. The thought of actually running a business and doing the same technical work at the same time. So it got me in trouble a little bit later. And then I started, a couple other businesses. One failed. Thrival was another one I started at the same time, and then really started running multiple businesses, and that really got to be overwhelming. You got to really manage your entrepreneurial journey in a very clear, buttoned up way, or it can just consume you, which happens with a lot of entrepreneurs. So,
So when did you recognize that you were being crushed and you were being consumed?
yeah,
How did that manifest itself, and what was it that you were doing to maybe address it?
yeah. That's a good question. There were probably tons of signs, let me know. But What I was doing is I was selling things. I just love to make up new things and sell them and just see, if I could price those into the market. That's always been very intriguing for me. So I was doing that. And at some point it got to where I couldn't fulfill those.
Mm,
And so then started having to hire people. And so it was probably 12, 15 years ago. I started I started realizing I need help, and
yeah.
I didn't really know what need help is.
Yeah.
So I need help technically. So I knew to hire other accountants, and I would do that. Probably I didn't hire them well, but I knew at least to do that. But at some point, especially when I started running two businesses, is the operations, right? That movement side of the whole businesses really started to crush me. And so it's probably about 15 years ago. I started thinking I need help. I need a partner, I thought, or I need an operational person. And I started looking for that really to just help take the load off of a lot of things that weren't actually revenue generating. It was just companies supporting type activity. So it probably just dawned on me, I need help. I can't do this anymore. I need help. And that was kind of the first thing that started to happen. And then I started searching for help.
So when you identified, okay, I need help, I'm drowning here, this is something that's going to overwhelm me, it's impacting perhaps my daily life, my relationships, whatever those things may be, how did you identify then what things you were going to delegate? What is it you're going to have someone else do? How did you
Yeah.
determine what those things are?
Yeah. So the way I did it then was probably not as strategic as the way we do it now, because now we teach people how to do that. But probably back then, I was probably offloading things I didn't enjoy doing, and that can be one way to do it. It's not necessarily strategic, meaning it's not putting the right roles in a job description and assigning that to the right person. So I wasn't doing a lot of those strategic things. I was just trying to get things off my plate that I didn't want to do. And I think that's how a lot of entrepreneurs do it. A lot of accounting firm, owners that are trying to grow, they start just delegating things they don't enjoy. That's probably okay to do at first. It's just not necessarily how you strategically grow a company because every role has something you love and you don't enjoy, right? We're always doing all of our work, and some of it's more enjoyable than others. So really basing a lot of the decisions of delegation on a feeling, something I enjoy or don't like, was probably not the right way to do it. But that's probably how I did it. Probably how I did it first.
Mhm.
And when an accounting firm grows, it's very common that we let the firm go a little bit. So we don't reconcile our own firm's books.
That's
We
right.
get behind on some of that stuff. And, when we coach firm owners, sometimes we're asking them, hey, is your accounting caught up? Because you need real-time data actually to know what's going on in your firm. So that totally happened to me. And when that stuff starts happening, nobody really knows, but it's kind of embarrassing, obviously. So I'm like, I got to get that fixed. Somebody's got to help me catch that up. So I started really looking for an administrative operational person that can just clean that up and start managing the operation. So the operations really has to become important at some point in the journey of growing a firm.
I'm loving this conversation for a variety of reasons. I just spoke actually, let's see, 2 weeks ago at a conference where I was addressing this same topic. And one of the things that I found fascinating is when I said, you're in trouble when, as an accounting firm, you're filing for extensions for yourself, and your
Right.
and your year ends aren't done, and you're
Right.
you're looking at your own accounting and
Yeah.
realizing that you're months and months behind closing out a certain month. I'm
Yeah.
just pointing out the obvious, and you could
Mm,
just see in the audience
mm,
individuals not only just shaking their heads, but just almost
yeah.
aghast as to how does
Yeah.
he know? And it was
Right. Right. He found out.
holy cow! I mean, it was just
Yeah.
their body language
Mm,
were these telltale signs of
yeah.
gotcha. But the
Yeah.
point is when you're going through this experience, there are these signs that indicate, okay, I need to step back and reassess how I'm running the business, not
Yeah.
doing my job, but running the business. So you and I both work with accounting firms and actually help individuals address this. So I do have two questions based on the comments that you just shared. One,
Yeah.
how do you know as a firm, as a business owner, that you do need help, that it's time for you to recognize I need to bring in some outside support and delegate? And
Yeah.
second question is, you alluded to there's a better way of determining what to delegate rather than what it was that you may have done before. What
Yeah.
is it that you can share that actually is a better way for people to identify what is it that they should be hiring someone to do?
Yeah. No, that's good stuff. And that can be a long conversation because it does get into a lot of strategic behaviors. A lot of things we do when we're consulting and coaching with firm owners is we're looking at team sizes. Those tell us a lot. So just ranges, like when a firm starts hitting 5 to 8 people,
Mm-hmm.
that starts to become a substantial firm so that the owner really they just can't pick up all the slack of all the things. So when you have 5 to 8 people, that's a time you really needed to have delegated a lot of the technical work that you used to do. But by that time, you probably need, especially by 8 people size, one of those has got to be a full-time administrative person. There's got to be somebody focused on the operations. And just knowing that really can, even if people are listening going, oh, I have 8 people and I don't have one of those. Well, then that's probably embedded in a lot of the owner's role,
Mm-hmm.
and it shouldn't be. So when you're trying to strategically delegate, you're always trying to figure out who can do this better than me, because I'm starting to bottleneck a lot of things. So when you get to 8, you need a full-time ops person, a support person, whatever you call them. Sometimes we'll call ours a strategic operational coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
because admin is just kind of an old-fashioned term. It can still work, it's not that it's wrong, but a strategic ops coordinator, SOC, sometimes that can be really helpful at a certain period of time. And then by that time, you really start to build out the operational support department of a firm as you start growing past 8, 10, 12 people. You're going to need an ops division. You're going to start to need leadership in that, like operation manager. My partner's the COO. I'm the CEO. And so, you'll start to really create those strategic roles. And I think a lot of technical accountants that are building a firm, we default into hiring other accountants. And it makes sense. We're overwhelmed. Let's hire somebody to do some of the work. And so that's true sometimes. So I think that's a pretty cool strategy. Up to 5 or 8 people,
Mm-hmm.
you can start to play around because the owner can still keep a lot of the higher level review and strategic services and even the admin on their plate up to that team size. But when that team size, gets that large, you then have to start delegating operational and support things. These are non-revenue generating activities, and that's a tough role to hire for a firm owner. They're like, they invest in a salary that has no revenue associated with it. It's like, this is really a cost or a support to the firm. Turns out it's not a cost. It's actually a very strategic purchase to make a hire of a strategic person. So I don't know, Roger, I'm rambling, but
No. Let me
there's so
jump in.
much to that.
Yeah, let me jump in because there is something to that. The way I address it with my clients is I actually focus on efficiency. And what I explain to them is in the production side of the business, we have to actually focus on efficiency because the efficiency then determines the profitability of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're describing bringing in this operational person, the role there isn't revenue in the sense that there's billable hours, but there is an ROI component to it because what they're trying to do is find the efficiencies, and everything that they can do to help the business run more efficiently is going to equate then to a profitability. And so the way we manage that role is actually looking at how do we actually do the things in the business to have consistency for our clients. There's a process we're doing for everyone each and every month and so forth. And then with that operational role, we're looking at, okay, is there a way that we can take a process that used to take us 8 hours and make it now 7 hours? Is there something that we can do that says the average client time that we're spending happens to be 10 hours per client? We've gotten the firm to now we're more efficient using these different tech tools and so forth because of the training we invested in, because of the way we've organized the workflow, to now we're averaging 7 hours per client. Well, we're still billing the same amount because we're not doing hourly. Well, that bill rate is now being attributed to 7 hours worth of work, not 10. So therefore, we've got a clear ROI, and we can attribute that to this individual that's focused on how are we going to work more efficiently. So we do similar to what you're describing to actually give value to that position.
Yeah, exactly. And and I love to hear you say that, Roger, because efficiency should be a goal, of a lot of the movement of our work. And often we don't think about it, as firm owners, because we have an accounting firm. So we think, go get more accounting clients
Mm-hmm.
or more tax. And it becomes more complicated than that to run a business well. Of course, we still do the technical work of accounting, tax, payroll, or CFO, CAS, whatever things you sell in your firm. But you have to run a business well too, especially when you start hitting that 8 to 10 person range. You have to have a lot of stuff really buttoned up,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to swallow you whole, which it did me. So I know that from personal experience. So it can really swallow you whole. And so that's where firm owners have to learn how to run a business, which, Rogers, is what you and I do. It's like, hey, you're a great accountant. We're not going to teach you that, but you do need to run a business in a different way. And so that is the education we do in Thrival. That's what's needed, is to teach people how to run a business. They've got the accounting and tax and payroll services, but we need to teach them how to do that.
I love it. The way I've been describing that for years. I didn't come up with the term, but it was something that we just invented here internally. I just can't remember who in our office said it, but it's been this idea of becoming an accountrepreneur. It's embracing that while running an accounting business, we're also entrepreneurs. And some people, as they're running their businesses, are reluctant to actually embrace that they are the owner of a company. Clearly, they run around explaining that they own the business. I mean, there's nothing saying that they don't have pride in the fact that they've started and built the company. But what I'm talking about is running a business. Not getting into the debits and credits and providing the product and service you're delivering, but actually running the business. And that's really something that people struggle with, because it's not perhaps their forte. It's not where their expertise is. They struggle in understanding how to be that leader. And so that idea of working on the business is somewhat elusive to some people. And so that's what I think you and I are addressing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I came to understand that really building a firm has a lot to do with role definition, kind of really being strategic about what kinds of roles you create, how you hire people into those roles, how you lead those roles, in strategic ways. And the reason all that's important, because you hear things like people saying, well, I have a team member, I need them to do this, but they don't like doing that. And that's not strategic. That's letting your team member say what they feel they enjoy. And, a proper response from an owner to that team member is to say, hey, you're going to embody a role, right? This role that I need you, it's got a title that's meant to, communicate the value of that role. Here's all the things in the job description. This is the role we need in this firm to help it grow. We've determined it's a new role. We're asking you, when we hire people, do you want to take the role? All of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't ask humans to cherry pick stuff inside of a strategically built role, because we'll all pick the fun stuff. But that's not how life works, right? Every role has something that's valuable, and it may be things you don't enjoy, some things you do enjoy. So role building and team restructuring, those are the things we've become real experts at over time, over the 30 years. And it really, but I mean, you see how valuable it is, because we do consulting with firms that come to us with 40 people and they have no structure, no strategically designed roles, no titles. So you find a lot of common things in that. There's chaos. Nobody knows who does what. Who do you go to for help? How do you delegate? When are you reverse delegating? When is somebody unhappy? Why are they unhappy? Why is stuff not getting done? And then the owner's just consumed with these nitpicky, bottleneck-based requests, because there's been no structure applied to that. So team structuring is something we visualize, we teach, and it's really based on roles, trying to figure out what is that next new strategic role or leadership layer or senior based layer that you're adding, and what is the purpose behind it. So building a services based company starts to get pretty complicated the bigger it gets, because you got to really be strategic about these brand new roles you're creating and who you're promoting into those, and sometimes demoting out of, that they shouldn't have been in the first place. So it's hard.
As you're describing that, one of the things I'm remembering is an exercise that we often do with our clients, which is basically reverse engineering the business as to what it is they'd like to have. So you're imagining now 5 years in the future, 3 years
That's
in the
cool.
future. And in that process, you're looking at, okay, if there was an exit for whatever reason, what is it that we're building ultimately? What do we want it to look like? What's the
Yeah.
valuation of it? Well,
Yeah.
when you have that context, it's interesting how people then play with that and say, well, if that's the case, this is how I'd organize the business. And you don't put names initially into the bubbles. You just basically
Yeah.
say, these are the roles that are going to be necessary for us to provide these
Yep.
services and grow the business. Well, now you start to put names in certain roles and it's clear, okay, this person's in the wrong bubble. They're in the wrong
Yeah.
seat, right? Or this person should be over here, but clearly this is what's demanding their attention right now. And we've got to find somebody to fill this position so that this person can be freed up to go over where we think they were better suited. These
Totally.
conversations are phenomenal simply because they're forward thinking and they're in that leadership space that the owner needs to be. But to your point, I like the idea that there's clarity in positions, and whether it comes through the title or the job description, what we do is we apply a principle called the universal business model. And using that, we basically take everything that's going on in the organization, we break it down to marketing and sales, accounting, and then production. And when I do this exercise, it really does help the business owner take the hundreds
Yeah.
of things in their mind and start
Yeah.
compartmentalizing them into smaller chunks, bite-sized pieces that now become manageable. They're able to prioritize them, some cases delegate them, and they really start to feel good about it. So here's where I'd like to go then. Here you are, you're experiencing in your own firm with your father the growth of the business. You're getting overwhelmed at one point. You're doing all these things, but you clearly started another business. I'm assuming you're referring to Thrival?
Well, there's been a couple.
Okay, all right. You mentioned some worked and some didn't. So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
was that?
So I've had the firm since. Well, my dad had it probably 5 years before 1997. I think is when he started the firm.
Okay.
Basically, that's when he bought it, and so 5 years later, I came in and started running it. So soon after I started running it, within a few years, I opened up a digital signage company.
Oh, all right.
Where before really digital signage was a thing, before you walk up to an eatery and you see menus on digital boards, this was before all of that. So we started something where we were putting digital signage in local malls, these big malls during Christmas, where we build ads and we'd push them down through servers online into these big mammoth digital signs, right? That were really well built. They looked good sitting in the mall. And then we had to, go sell ads. And then I had a design partner who built the ads, and he was so good at it. That became way more difficult than I thought, right? So, and this is the things you learn when you start. And I had no experience with that kind of business. Me and this guy that I met were like, this will be fun. We'll make wads of money. There's so much you don't think about, right? Just the maintenance of these pieces of equipment, and things you don't think about, right? It's a startup, right? You have kids going in there with pencils, kind of reaching in and cutting the machine off.
Oh,
And so I do taxes all day long and then go to the mall and reboot my digital signage machines. And then you get to a point where you're like, this is not working, right? The sales you thought you would have, it was a new way to display ads and value to people. So the education and the sales was so high, people didn't even know what you were selling. You
yeah.
had to explain it. And then a lot of times you would do ads for free to show them. That's part of the education. And then they're like, that's pretty cool. Nah. And then you just built this ad, right? So eventually the sales just never picked up. People and we a business like that, we would have needed a sales force really to just go in and canvas the whole world, basically. But it was just me and my partner. He was designing. I was running a firm during the day while he was designing during the day. And then I'm trying to do all this at night, do some sales, go fix these machines that are going down. He and I both did that. So that just didn't work.
Well, what it is it's a testament to your entrepreneurial drive. You've got that eager, this has got to work and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, that's what you do, and that's even accountants who we like to say, doing taxes is way different than running a business that does taxes.
Oh,
those are completely two different things. They're not the same thing. And so accountants default into running an accounting business. Well, that's a completely different deal. And when you put yourself in that situation, you just do what you have to do. If the business is small, under 5 people, man, the owner is taking the trash out. That is just what you're doing
Yes.
at that size. And a lot of people want tons of freedom, and that's sometimes there's a false sense of freedom that entrepreneurship promises to people. It's not the freedom. We say it's not the freedom to do whatever you want. It's the freedom to make any decision you want. And
Yeah.
so because if you do whatever you want, a lot of people do the wrong things and they wreck their firm, or it's not growing, or it's consuming them. So yeah, becoming very strategic about how to run a services-based business is completely different than being accountants. And Roger, that's why you and I exist. You need help with that. You need to be taught those things. There's a lot of strategy. There's
Yeah.
some basic strategies. And if you're not taught that stuff, we don't learn it as accountants in school. You have to learn it on the job.
Exactly. So I want to jump in to something you just said and maybe kind of go off topic here. You've spoken of firms 5 to 8 employees. You've spoken of firms 40 employees. Do you see thresholds? The solopreneur is obviously dealing with something that's different than the 40-person firm. So there's
Totally.
certain experiences, and I find them that when that first solopreneur hires an employee, typically they're administrative or another account,
Mhm.
that's a huge leap because they see the revenue that they're earning as their salary as well. And so to hire someone else means that they're making that much less.
Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
mindset thing that we have to address. But the same thing starts to happen when you're talking about the 8-person firm, when they're hiring that person that's going to be over the operationals side of things. You spoke of it earlier. They're non-revenue producing. So it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to justify hiring a position that you cannot associate revenue with. And so that's kind of like that managerial role of they're not a
Yeah.
producer, but they're overseeing the producers. So how do I justify that? So there's those thresholds. Where do you see those occurring? And do you have them kind of broken out like I was alluding just now?
Yeah, we do. We do think about them anecdotally. So we don't kind of lock people in to say there are very certain te- at certain team sizes things
Uh-huh.
have to change. It's
Uh-huh.
really ranges. So
Okay.
that solopreneur, 1 to 2 or 3 people,
Yep.
they're going to be able to operate in a certain way because the owner can see everybody, talk to everybody. They really can just they can have a handle on everything that's going on. So that's one level, right? And so that level doesn't require some of the things the other levels require because you're not having problems. You can see everything, and really sometimes your project management workflow system can be even a spreadsheet at that time, and it's good enough. When you get to 5 to 8 people, really that's where you start getting to where one owner can't see everything. They can't manage every client relationship. 5 to 8 people, they just require a certain amount of revenue to pay their salary, right? And to pay the owner. So you have to produce a certain bucket of money. And so you're actually pulling in more money. Well, it's going to eventually hit the owner to where they can't do everything they were they were doing when it was 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
So sometimes they don't know what they feel, but they're hitting growth ceilings at a lot of these
Yeah.
phases. And the growth ceiling, basically what it is them pressing up against some ceiling that's holding them back.
Yep.
And to change that, you typically have to change your structure, break something, do something totally new, sometimes a brand new role. You have to, as the owner, behave in a completely different way than you don't know. So those growth ceilings are very strategic places that you have to institute certain things. And it's hard to lock that in for everybody because it is going to be different for every single entrepreneur. It's what they want. It's the kind of service they want to provide. So those levels are, 2 to 3, 5 to 8, and then we start seeing 10 to 14, 15. When you get to that size, as the owner at a 15 size firm, you really need to have a lot of the technical doing off of your plate by
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
Now, you might still be reviewing some of the hard things that are coming into the firm and probably
Yeah.
at that size as the owner, you're still doing a lot of the selling too, right? You're the one that can communicate the trust you want clients to have in you. So those are kind of some of the sizes. Then you start getting into the 25, 32 range, right? Then you've got to have well, by 15, you got to have your leadership team pretty much in place, right? By that point, if you're just the single owner, you're going to need one or two or three leaders that are a little bit closer to you, a little bit further away from the revenue production, and they become really a shield from all the things that are going on in the firm. And the senior team or the leadership team, they start to take on all of the many requests from the clients and the team. And so now you have a little bit of shielding, but what we call that is leverage, right? That leadership team, which is an owner can't serve 15 people, but an owner serving a leadership team of 3 can serve 20 people, right?
Yep.
So you gain leverage through that leadership layer. And so you pull them a little bit closer. And so there's a million different strategies. That's just one of them. You got to start building a leadership team when you get to 15. And then, yeah, when you get to, 25, 32, you really, as the owner, if you're embodying the CEO role, you really can't be in revenue production at that point. You're really leaning on running a company, visionary things. You're probably still dealing with sales, some pretty high-end sales conversations. So just you got to do things at different team sizes. Really, it's what drives it, or it's one way to look at it. There's a lot of ways to look at it, but that can guide a lot of behavior for owners.
But just having that conversation, I think, is insightful. Just having a business owner kind of go through that mental gymnastics, I think, is helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we do that in consulting because it's nuanced. So a service-based organization is very nuanced. It's going to all be based on what the owner wants, what they sell, what they do in the market, if they're niched, if they're not, they have a strong team or a younger, weaker team. All that, is part of the designing of the team that firm should build.
The thing that I would add, and this is just through my own experience, is it's also the personality or the strengths of the business owner. There are certain things that they're just not good at,
Totally.
And it's going to be difficult for them to go to that next stage in a business.
Totally.
Just because if they're going to go that route, they need to bring in someone else to actually complement what they're doing, just simply because they don't personally have that kind of way of either giving vision to the organization, bringing the energy to the organization as it's necessary. So and at the end of the day, these are all their own companies. Clearly, at the end of the day, they have to make decisions as to what it is they want to do with their own organization and where they want to take it. So
yeah, exactly. Like for me, I delegate too fast, probably, because I'm like, let's grow this thing, right? I want to embody this visionary leadership role and go to the market and sell and price. Those are things I love to do. I've always loved to do that. And so I may delegate in a way that's too fast, where I'm pushing work into a role that's not been crafted appropriately. It's not been titled right. That team member's not been trained. So they're confused as to what's being delegated. And then you have some people who are just control freaks, right? They just want to keep it. They don't delegate. So we got all kinds, right? We're just humans. There's all kinds of different people. So some are bent one way and some the other.
As you're sharing that, I just this week had my retreat with my management team and did an exercise with them that was new. It was something exciting. I was looking forward to it. And it was basically what I referred to as the hot seat. And I said, we were just going to sit in the hot seat. And in that position, we wanted everyone else in the organization, my leadership team that's present, to basically say, if you were in that role, what would you do differently? And so I was literally sitting, I went to the seat and I sat down and I said, okay, so if you're running the company, what would you do differently? How would you have handled some situations that have come up recently differently? Where would you take the company in the coming year? And it was interesting, the insights, what they said. And fortunately, it was a lot of complimentary type stuff. And so I appreciated it. But opening up the dialogue to simply say, look, I recognize I'm not perfect. And I'm sure I've done some things that were either misunderstood or I could have done differently or better. What would you have done differently? And where would you go that you feel I'm not giving priority? And it was a fascinating discussion. And we did it with the rest of the team members, where everyone was able to give some insights on other positions in the organization as they saw it. And I thought it was a very healthy discussion. And it takes a certain caliber of person to be able to take that type of criticism correctly, not personally, let's say. And so I thought it was a healthy kind of dialogue, and it kind of stems from what you just shared a moment ago. So thank you for that. Here's the question I want to know is, you've been doing this for 30 years. What's the favorite part of what you do now?
Yeah, probably. Julie, my partner, and I, we do a lot of coaching and consulting.
Hmm.
And that's probably some of our favorite work. I mean, we do a lot of things. We lead events, we teach at events, we lead companies, we spend time with our team. But there are places we can go to owners in confidential and private places in consulting and coaching, and really dive deep
Hmm.
into some of their issues. We can, you know, and if we gain their trust and they know we have empathy towards what they're doing, because we
Yeah.
do it every day with them too,
Yeah.
we also struggle. so we can share and really see people be helped in that coaching and consulting. So that took a good 10-15 years to build a practice around coaching and consulting, because there's a certain skill around it. You have to really
Hmm.
be able to coach people or counsel them through paths, because when you're doing that kind of work, those people are their own worst enemy. They're holding themselves back, and you have to address a lot of things, personally. But it's very fulfilling to see them trust you, to know that we're going to care for them. And then a lot of times you get into these 8, 12, 18, 24-month engagements
Oh, yeah.
to walk through a change, and you get to spend that part of your life with them.
Hmm.
And so that is really enjoyable. Probably a fast second is going to be teaching and some of the content we do, just leading events and just sharing things that produce insights for groups of people, and then ordering them around through breakouts and coaching type breakouts where they grow and learn even more. So that's a fast second of something we really enjoy too.
I appreciate that. You spoke of the empathy and such. I do distinctly see in each of the client relationships I have the moment that they feel safe. I try to provide within the first 4 to 6 weeks
Yeah,
a safe environment where they start
that's
to open
cool.
up and start to share things that aren't as obvious as you might think. And
Right,
every client goes through that moment where they finally are able to say, um, I didn't know I was going to share this. And they become vulnerable and they
right.
start to kind of give some inner workings of, here's my thought process to this, or
Yeah,
here's something I'm recognizing that I've done wrong. And they start to talk through that. And that's very therapeutic for them to actually start going through
totally.
this exercise of starting to opening up, and more importantly, share something that they wouldn't share with anyone else because they finally feel that they're in a safe environment. And so uh, excellent contribution
Yeah,
to that. I appreciate your insights on that. So let me do this. If you went back 30 years ago and
yeah.
you were talking to your father, and he was to say, "Hey, I need some help. I'd love to work with you." You're coming to him saying, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm ready." What would you have done different?
Yeah. So probably a lot of that early on, I needed to go through probably a lot of that. I needed to start practicing selling, making up new services. I was hiring people then, creating new roles. I didn't really know why or what I was doing. I just needed help, So that's really what drove me early on, is I need help. So I'd find a role that may provide me some level of help. I think though, as the owner, and my dad really was like, "Hey, you can run this however you want."
Hmm.
I didn't have really the accountability I needed. I really, as an entrepreneur, could really do anything I wanted. Um, and a lot of people, they long for that, and they think that's their goal. Like, I've got to run my own business so I can do anything I want, and that's a really dangerous thing to give into the hands of a person like me, because I can get distracted, and if I can do anything I want, I will. I'll leave at 2 o'clock
You go
and just
start a
not.
digital company.
Right, I'll go start. Right, see, I'll stop doing taxes and go start a digital company. Like, that's what happens. And so, if when you bring people around you that are there on the same journey with you, they start to go, "I'll go with you on that journey, but I need to know what that vision is if I'm
Hmm.
going to commit my life to it." So it locks you into having to lead and go, "This is the path. We're going to stay on it." And if I have full 100% autonomy to make any decision anytime I want, I'll fly off into never, never land and start something else that'll just crush me in 5 years. And so
Yeah.
I probably should have added accountability in a way where there's people around me going, why are you doing that? Should you do that now? I don't know if I would have listened to them, honestly, but that's probably what I needed. I needed more accountability. And now we run 2 full-time businesses, and most of my days are given to me. I'm told what to do to fulfill the goals that my partner and I set up, right? There are goals, but operationally, I didn't know how to really structure those into an ordered system so that I could be accountable.
Yeah.
Now I know. So I'm just really following the order of my calendar, kind of doing what I'm told. We teach a lot about strategic calendar work blocking. That's a big part of the foundation of our, capacity management for service teams. And that provides accountability that keeps me focused. It keeps me focused. And if I'm focused as a person, I can outproduce and work anybody on the planet.
There you
It's
go.
the focus that I need. It's not, I'm definitely not smarter than most people. That's like proven in a lot of different ways. So I've got proof for that point. But you give me structure, I'm going to kill it. And most people they would really be, if they're structured, they would really just dominate. It's hard to self-apply that structure.
You're making a great case for having a business coach. It's lonely at the top, and it's nice to have somebody that can hold you accountable. So
totally.
Yeah.
And that's that's the coaching brings that accountability. It's that third party who's going, why are you doing that? Or that's not pushing you down the path you said you wanted to go. You need somebody asking you that.
Yeah. The way I define a great business coach is 2 things. 1, it's they ask the right questions. And 2, they hold you accountable. If you've got that individual by your side, you will accelerate your success because you get greater clarity on what it is you're supposed to be doing, and you're able to prioritize it in such a way that you can have now due dates. And with that, somebody's holding you accountable. You can't push it off. You can't procrastinate it. You can't justify pushing it away. So yeah, very big thing.
Love it.
Jason, what's something you're grateful for?
I am grateful for having chose a profession, which is a people profession. So the paths I chose, I'm grateful that the path I chose led me here. I didn't know it would. I had no idea. I was in a rock band going, I need to pick a major. So I really had no strategic desire in that. I'm grateful that I wasn't led to a place where I'm alone a lot. That probably wouldn't be good for me to work in a place where I'm alone. So I'm with a lot of people who care about our vision, that care about me. My partner's just really dedicated to the vision we're trying to support. And running 2 full-time businesses, it's really not easy. I mean, you can order it in a way where I wouldn't call it hard. It's just very organized.
Yeah.
Which is what I need. So I'm surrounded by people who really care. We just did a team restructure on our team. We reordered things around. We created a brand new senior layer for our team to care for our team. We promoted some people. We created some new roles with brand new titles. And I just told him, I said, I'm just grateful. Julie and I are grateful to just look at y'all, and you've joined our journey. You've joined us on this vision. I'm really grateful for that people would go, I'll adopt your vision and I'll go with you. And it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing that somebody would make that personal commitment to adopt somebody else's journey and go with them. And then, and so those people, then you have to care for them. You got to listen to them. Mm-hmm. And I need that. I need to be forced to be in a place where I'm listening, I'm hearing. People are sharing with me my weaknesses, my strengths. I got to have all that. I really need it. Or on my own, I'm not going to make the best choices. So I've proven that so many times. So,
are you still in a band?
No, I still play, but right now I'm playing acoustic. So I'd love to get back into bass. So not in a band right now, but
All
I
right.
would love it. Yeah,
All
I
right.
loved being in a band.
So my listeners can't go see Jason on stage.
No,
All right.
sorry.
All right. That's fine. That's fine. Jason, this has been a pleasure. I have really enjoyed our conversation. I
Thank you.
appreciated the insights. I really thought this has been very thoughtful. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to point out a few things and come back to you for a closing thought. Before
Cool.
I give my summary of this, I do want to mention that Jason's been very kind to share that in the episode description, you can actually go and get information on how you can join his community and even save. So definitely check out the episode description and learn more what it is you can about his Thrival community there. And then at the same time, I do want to invite you to check out the episode description for some of the other free resources that we offer here at Universal Accounting Center to assist you as you're working on your business. There are a variety of things there that you want to check out, one of which I would highly recommend, which is the book, Your Strategic Accountant. It was written specifically to help you understand what services you could be offering in order to provide the premier accounting services in your area and literally take care of your clients' needs as it relates to accounting. It's written to the business owner so that they can actually see and understand the services you're providing. So I invite you to actually check out that book, Your Strategic Accountant, and see what it is you can be doing to, in fact, have the premier accounting service in your area offering quality accounting services. Now, that being said, as a summary, this was a wonderful conversation, clearly one I was looking forward to simply because of what Jason and I each do. I'm happy to hear Jason's story. It was nice to realize that he, like so many, didn't pursue the accounting profession purposefully. It was something that kind of just stumbled on. I think that's always a fun little story to learn what people went through to get where they are. But the thing that was really important is he had obviously this path that brought him to working with his father. And I think that was an amazing story, only because of the fact that I can relate to that somewhat. This is partly a family business that I moved into, and there's the element of family that becomes very helpful. There's a lot of commitment that comes from family. There's a lot of times a loyalty that exists there. And so when you come into that environment, it can be very, very supportive. And if you're properly nurtured, very engaging. So one of the things that I took from the story is the fact that he did at one point find himself, let's say, crushed or feeling the pressures of the business, and he realized he had to address that. And I appreciated his insights on how he resolved that. Resolved finding that position and filling that position, recognizing he couldn't be everything to everyone. The other thing I really appreciated was his insights regarding just basically the operational structure of a business as it differs from a solopreneur with 1 to 3 to employees from 5 to 8, and these different thresholds. There is a range that goes on there, and his insights as to how that business evolves and especially how it relates to the business owner were very, very helpful. The other thing that I thought was quite nice is the idea of the gratitude here at the end, sharing the fact that he recognizes that everything that he's doing is basically the sum of many people. And I think we all need to really kind of sit back and recognize that a lot of our successes is, in fact, because of those that we associate with, whether personally or professionally. We have a circle of influence around us, and hopefully it's one that is helping us achieve things that we wouldn't otherwise do on our own, as he was alluding that he couldn't be the man that he is by himself. So I think that was very, very insightful. So, Jason, what parting words would you like to end with?
I would say if people are hearing this and they're like, I think I need help. Um, it's you probably don't need to build a firm long term alone. It's really not it's not going to play well to do it alone. When you get to 8, 10, 12, you start to really almost need a partner. Getting a partner is tough too. You got to really do that right. You can't just default into a partner. Um, but you're going to need people, to help you. So do not do it alone. And that could look a lot of ways, right? Come into a community like Thrival, hire a coach. These are efforts to not be alone, and it's investments you're making. But though they're so valuable, you can really pull a lot out of these kinds of investments when you invest in being with other entrepreneurs, being with skilled coaches. And if you have a larger firm that's just completely out of hand, starting to look at consulting. And some of this, it's investments you're making, but you need people around you. You really don't need to do this alone because, man, it will mess with your head.
We don't want you to get messed
No,
up in the head.
Don't get messed up in the head.
Very good. Well, Jason, thank you again for being on the show. And to my listeners, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, we'd love to have you subscribe and set the notifications so you get notified each and every week when we release a new episode. As for the episodes themselves, we do actually have a collection of different topics. If you'd like to actually binge listen to a number of the shows, you can go to universalaccounting.com. And there we actually have a variety of playlists that we've organized based on topical things as they relate to marketing, selling, mental health, client onboarding, tech stacks, and so forth. So I invite you to go back and listen to past episodes and hear what the experts have to say about those topics. But with your subscription, you'll be notified each and every week as we release new and great episodes that we have in the lineup. The other thing I want to do is also invite you to GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual event for owners of accounting, bookkeeping, and tax businesses. It's meant to actually help you actually find out what it is you can be doing to work on your business. It's here we have experts on the stage sharing their insights as to what it is we need to be doing looking forward. And at the same time, it gives you an opportunity to interact with your peers, those people that are like you doing the same things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And through those collaborations, see what it is you can do to actually supplement your services and team up with other individuals to grow your business. And then lastly, you get to meet the team here at Universal Accounting Center, those individuals that are dedicated to help you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal. The last thing I'd like to mention is if you have any questions about today's episodes or other topics that we've discussed, feel free to reach out to us at Universal Accounting. You can go to universalaccountingschool.com or give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. And with that being said, have a wonderful day. Be safe out there. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care.